Fighting with My Family is directed by Stephen Merchant and tells the based on a true story of WWE superstar Paige as she makes her journey from fighting with her family in lower tier wrestling events to becoming a superstar diva of the WWE. Let's start with my experience with wrestling. I watched it a bit when I was younger and my brother really liked it and I used to watch it with him. I remember not really actually liking the actual wrestling all that much, but I remember enjoying the storylines and the ridiculous scenarios that would play out between all the different wrestlers. Like it was some kind of big crazy soap opera. But this was years ago, long before Paige ever came to the WWE, before The Rock ever had anything resembling a significant acting career, and before John Cena was even a thing. I thought that the trailer looked really funny where The Rock yells at the two characters backstage, and I thought that they were going to make this a proper hilarious comedy set in the heightened world of the WWE. Maybe they'd exaggerate the characters to make it a more heightened reality, but they didn't really do that, and that clip from the trailer is by far the funniest scene in the whole film. I thought that the first act was not great, and I started to get really worried that this was going to be a really difficult sit with some bad humour, and that was not at all helped by the other people in the cinema watching the film with me. It was really awful. They kept laughing at the moments that weren't even intended to be funny, and in this really loud, forced way. There's a scene where a character is hit in the face with the lid of a dustbin, and the dick behind me just had to shout out, "Oh f***!" So I moved seats, which turned out to be a big mistake because the two guys to my right were drinking beer and somehow being even more obnoxious. At least I think it was beer, but realistically, I don't know who goes to the cinema with a six-pack of Coke and then drinks it all. In the really tense scenes where we don't know if Paige is going to overcome her fears and rise to the challenge, these two were saying really loudly, "Come on, Paige, don't let this opportunity slip through your fingers." They said it like that, out loud, in that tone of voice. It was awful. First of all, I don't believe that you're that invested in this film, and secondly, even if you were, how do you have so little self-control? Just shut up! Don't talk during the film! All of this combined with the fact that the first act was kind of a mess really kind of made me want to hate the film so that I get to hate these guys even more because they like it. But once the first act ends and the second act kicks in and Paige is chosen to go to America, it really picks up from there. That's when I really start to get into your story and root for her. Before that, it's all about how everyone thinks that she and her family are freaks for wrestling. Like, what? Why? Like, even if wrestling isn't your cup of tea, does anybody actually think that? And it's weird because most of the jokes don't even seem to be wrestling related in that first part. It seems more to be focused on the fact that her family are lower class and the dad used to be an alcoholic and a criminal and that kind of stuff, and it's pretty good for setting up this rags to riches story, but I didn't find it funny as maybe I was supposed to. But the second act is better and there's a lot of good drama with her struggle to make it in the world of wrestling, and with her brother who wasn't chosen to wrestle even though he probably wants it more, and there's tension between the two of them who used to be very close. She's not sure if she has what it takes to make it and whether or not she even really wants it, and he's struggling with what his life now even is, that he's not good enough to be what he always really wanted to be. Lots of good relatable stuff. It's a wee bit like Rocky where she's given the shot, but will she persevere and train hard enough to go the distance and achieve her dreams? It's good stuff. You only really see that comedic tone from the trailer in the Vince Vaughn character and when The Rock shows up, and a wee bit with Nick Frost and Lena Headey. The scenes with them are more like a comedy, but any scenes with Paige and her brother Zach don't really seem to be, so it kind of feels like there are two different films happening at the same time. Vince Vaughn's really good, and it's great when he shows up because there's a lot more humour injected into the film, and he has some great moments where he insults all the different wrestlers who are trying out. And there is a bit more to his character, which I like because it added a bit more depth. There's a great scene where he reveals to Paige why he didn't choose her brother to go into the WWE, which was one of the highlights of the film for me. And The Rock, well, he's not really in this film. It's basically a cameo. He has two scenes in this film, and if you've seen that trailer I was talking about earlier, then you've already seen one of them. But you would be excused for not expecting this based on the marketing for the film. I think that the two leads, Florence Pugh and Jack Lowden, are probably too good as actors for these roles. I mean, they're really good and they nail the dramatic scenes, but not so much the comedic scenes. And I really liked the other women who are trying out for the WWE with Paige. They really subverted my expectations because they pretty much looked like models and Paige doesn't get on with them. And what happens is very realistic, where Paige thinks that they're judging her and talking about her, but she's really just revealing her own assumptions and insecurities. There is a scene where they reveal that these women aren't really wrestlers, the way that Paige is. They're cheerleaders and models, and they've been hired because they're fit and they look good, and that's revealed when one of them keeps accidentally hitting Paige instead of faking it, and she keeps saying, oh, it was an accident, and Paige says, well, yeah, accidents can get wrestlers killed. I thought that maybe it would be explored more and that it was a setup for something that was going to happen later on, but it never really pays off. So it's set up that Paige feels inferior and not as attractive as these other women because she's not as skinny, or she has a very pale complexion and dark hair. Even though Florence Pugh is hotter than the other women in the film, and like 5 times hotter than the real Paige. I feel like it could have been funnier if it was better directed. The framing of the scenes didn't really lend itself to comedy, and the editing could be very quick and messy and basic when it could have really been used to emphasize the comedy. Or maybe if the tone was closer to something like Step Brothers or The Other Guys, where the reality is heightened and the characters are very over the top. That's the kind of feeling I was getting from that first trailer that doesn't show up in the film. It's not a huge problem, but I think if they were trying to make it more of a comedy, it would have been more effective like that. This is a bit of a spoiler, but I was kind of confused by the final scene of the film. Paige is chosen for her first big appearance to go up against the current champion and possibly to win the belt. And she's really nervous and worried that she won't make it. But wouldn't a match like that be rehearsed? Wouldn't she know going in what the outcome was going to be? See, what I thought that the point was of whether or not she'll actually make it as a wrestler was whether or not the fans would like her and connect to her, which she could only really achieve by doing things like talking smack and creating a character on stage that they could connect to. But she never ends up doing that. The big triumphant moment is her winning the belt. It's already established earlier on that she is a good wrestler, and she doesn't really struggle with that side of things. You even see her teaching the other hopefuls, the cheerleaders and the models, how to do the wrestling moves. But her weakness is her inability to establish a persona, or at least be a heightened version of herself, to bring something unique to wrestling that fans will connect to and that will set her apart from everybody else. But in the final scene, she fails to do that. She chokes again. I mean, she does win the match, but that wasn't the point. Surely she already knew she was going to win, because wrestling is fixed. It's not fake, it's fixed. So there's no tension. I was waiting for her to start talking smack to the other wrestler when she's challenged at the start of the match, and in that way she would win over the crowd. But nothing like that ever happens. It just kind of seems like at the end of the film they forgot that it's not about winning the match. It's about being successful as a wrestler, and in professional wrestling like the WWE, like they're going to decide who wins and who loses, but you gotta have a character and be likable. I don't really follow wrestling at all, but I can still tell that a lot of liberties were taken with the real life Paige story. Things like The Rock being there and her becoming champion in her very first big appearance. Like maybe she did, I don't know. But I don't really care. I give Fighting With My Family a C+. I think that it kind of fails as a comedy, but it has enough other good stuff and a lot of heart, so I think it is worth a watch. The film is billed as a biographical sports drama comedy, and it does have a bit of that, so don't go in expecting a laugh out loud comedy, and you'll probably even find it funnier. You don't have to be a wrestling fan or really know anything about wrestling to enjoy it, but it probably does help because there are a few wee cameos in there as well from people other than The Rock. And also, if you go to see Fighting With My Family and you've bought your ticket and you're sitting in your seat and you're waiting for the film to start and you look over and you see 2 big fat guys with big beards and carrying a 6-pack, then get out of there, get your money back, go a different day, because trust me, it's just not worth it. And people, if you do not have enough self-control to sit and watch a film without speaking out loud to the characters on the screen as though you think they can hear you, then wait for the Blu-ray, watch it at home, bother your family and your neighbours, please and thank you. Thank you very much for watching my review. Please do like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've seen Fighting With My Family, what you thought of it. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or if you have any points of your own. I'll be back soon with more reviews, and I will see you then.